Hey folks. Um, so what I'm going to do here is to run through the engineering spec from a leveling point of view, i.e., you want to level a sniper to 55 from level 10, and you want to know what the best order to choose talents skills is. So I thought I'd just run through that quickly, and then after I've done that, I'm going to go through and put a bit more explanation for those who don't want to know how all the bits and bobs. They can just view this bit and ignore the rest. If you want to know a bit more description, then keep watching. So here we go. So we want 2 in vital regulators. We want 3 in gearhead. Next one is engineer's tool belt. We want 2 in this one. We then want 3 in explosive engineering, 1 in interrogation probe. We want 2 in inventive interrogation techniques. We want 2 in cluster bombs. We want 2 in calculated pursuit. We want 1 in imperial methodology. We want 2 in efficient engineering. There's a bit about this one. I'll go into a bit of detail later. We want 1 in EMP discharge. We want 2 in experimental explosives. We want 2 in EMP recycler. I don't put any in engineer overrides. Again, I'll go into more detail later. We want 1 in electrified railgun. We then want 2 in deployed shields. We want 2 in electrified blast. We want 3 in imperial autoloader. We want 2 in the infamous scatter bombs. Goes without saying, we want 1 in plasma probe. And that'll take you up to level 45, which means you got 10 left. I'll go through my the rest of my spec. You want 2 in steady shots, 2 in ballistic dampers, 1 in marksmanship, 1 in heavy shot, 2 in precision ambush, and last but not least, 2 in cover screen. If you want to know why I've done it in that very specific order, keep on listening. If not, I hope that will solve some help. Okay, so the first one I go for is vital regulators. It basically heals me up whilst I'm in cover. It's a must-have, you know. It's always the first one to go for because you're low level. You need every bit of self-help you can. The energy tanks, it's not going to help that much, to be honest. Some people might disagree, to be honest, but nah, don't need it. Gearhead is the next one. Of course, that gives us access to bow number 2. And this is where it starts to get specific because you could go for this one, explosive engineering. Basically, it increases the damage of explosive probe, cluster bombs, fragmentation grenade, and a whole bunch of other things. You could go for this one, engineer's tool belt. You could go for stroke of genius or vitality sum. I just don't see the point of stroke of genius. It's not for me. Vitality sum, again, you're very low level. The extra 4 you would get it's just not worth it, not in my opinion. I go for engineer's tool belt, and the reason for that is a combination of 2 things. The first of which, it basically brings your cooldown of fragmentation grenades to 3, and as far as I'm concerned, that is huge. Because I've said before, an engineering sniper can be quite mobile, and at low level, this is especially true. Of course, you still need to use your debilitate and flashbang, but even so. The second reason I go for it is because as it lowers the cooldown by 3, the next one I go for, which is this one, increases the damage. So by reducing the cooldown, you can check it out more and, help to deal damage and do some interrupts, if people are trying to cap and so forth at low level. This next one will actually boost the damage a bit. So that's why I go for that particular order. Okay, so the next thing is obviously interrogation probe. It's a must-have skill. You got to have it. You get it as soon as possible because the very next couple of skills after this is going to be this one. Some people go for this one first, and I have seen people who don't get this at all. And I always get it because if you read your tooltips, it reduces your target's movement speed by 30%, and that is highly useful. And it's useful for a couple of reasons. If you're trying to escape from someone, you check that on. It's going to slow them down. It helps to evade them and kite a bit, and in a small way. 30% isn't huge, but it helps, and that's all it's meant to do in that situation. The other thing is in situations where you're trying to slow someone down, for example, your healer, your friend, or whatever is getting attacked by a melee type toon. Well, that's the way to slow them down. It just helps your teammates to evade their attackers a bit. So it's also helpful for wall zones like Void Star on attacking phase. You check that on when you're trying to delay them from the door, for example. So there's a number of reasons why it's best to get early on. I do put 2 in here because it lowers the energy, but I don't get it just yet. I want my cluster bombs next because it drops 2 cluster bombs, which means when you attack it with rifle shots, ambush, snipe, fragmentation grenades, shiv, debilitate, leg shot. It doesn't matter. It's what it does. It releases extra damage, which is good. The very next skill I choose is Calculated Pursuit. I put 2 in there. The reason why I choose that before this one or anything else is because in low level, engineering snipers can be quite mobile anyway, but low level they can be highly mobile, and for me, you learn that mobility part of the class. It's going to help you for later on. It's going to help your survival skills, if you know what I mean. So the way it works is, if you've read the tooltip by now, when you exit cover, it'll give you 4 chances of Calculated Pursuit, which basically gives you 4 free overload shots. So say that you're I don't know, trying to interrupt a guy and try to kill him at the same time in Navari Coast, for example, by the bunkers, darting in and out, or I don't know, in Void Star by the pillars, you're doing a bit of kiting and damaging and so forth. It can be handy like that. If you're trying to kill someone who's kiting you, then you can chase them and so forth. It's helpful in a whole number of situations. It's also helpful because if you happen to be low on health, not health, on energy, because you've been doing fragmentation grenades or any other skills, ambush, snipe, whatever, explosive probe, it's a good way of dealing damage and recovering energy at the same time, and that's highly useful. So that's why I do it in that order. I then go to Imperial Methodology next because I want my full set of cluster bombs. You get 2 here and 2 here, and it gives you energy at the same time, which is good stuff. So yeah, so when you got this, that's a pretty good set of skills right here. This next one, you can actually change that around a bit. I'll explain very shortly, but that's where I choose to efficient engineering. The next one I get is EMP discharge. There's no question on this one. You've got to get it, and the sooner you get it, the better. The reason is because when you use this, it finishes the cooldown, no matter what it is, of adrenaline probe, shield probe, entrench, covered escape. So if you take entrench as an example, it basically means you can have 40 seconds of entrench. Bloody awesome. A good reason why you may want to use 40 seconds of entrench is if you find yourself guarding on in Hypergate, for example, a pylon. If you use it with if you pop it on your trench at 46 seconds, at 26 seconds you use EMP discharge, they'll have to kill you in order to cap. So that's just it. There's a lot of skill in regarding when to use this one. For example, if you've popped adrenaline probe and entrench, but you haven't popped shield probe and covered escape, you know, when do you use it, when do you not use it? So it's a must-have. The sooner you get it, the better. Learn to love it. Learn to use it wisely. It's awesome. I could go on a bit longer, but get it. The next one I get is experimental explosives, and you can see it increases the critical damage of all area effects by 15 and 30% with 2, which is great because we are a area damage spec. So if that increases, okay, it's critical damage, but if it increases our damage, that's great. I then go for EMP Recycler. This one's in one respect is just a filler, because you can see the cooldown is 1 minute 15. By having 2 points in here, it's puts the cooldown to 1 minute. It used to be 1 minute for a very long time until I think it was when McKeb came out, they changed it. But anyway, yeah. Energy overrides. I never really know what to make of that one because I would use your own judgment on whether you end up choosing this one or not, because I don't always. You can see by the tooltip what it does is once you've popped EMP discharge, if you got 2 points in it, it'll make your next explosive probe or plasma probe 100% free. I forget what you've got a certain time, I think, in order to get that free use. But I don't always want to use that explosive probe or plasma probe after I've done EMP discharge. Sometimes I want to use something else. So my way of thinking, well, if I don't tend to do that very often, it's a waste of a couple of points I could use elsewhere. So that's my reasoning for not getting it. The next one is electrified railgun, and the reason for this is you should be pretty close to getting a series of shots by this point. So yeah, that's why I would go for that one. Basically, it just adds damage basically to your series of shots. That's, of course, series of shots, explosive probe, series of shots. That's our main burst. So anything which helps increase that burst is good stuff. The very next one is deployed shields. 2 in there, because you can see it reduces damage taken in cover by 6%. If it reduces my damage while I'm in cover, great, I'll take it. So yeah, it reduces the cooldown of ballistic shield as well. As I said, by the time you get to this rogue, you should be roughly around 36, which I think is when you get those. That's after I got electrified railgun and deployed shields. That's when I come over to electrified blast. 2 points in that one, and you basically see what it does. This one basically gives you 3 stacks. After you've done the full series of shots, it'll give you 3 stacks of what's it called? Of stuff, which will damage its your target over time. And this one just makes it that snipe and overload shot. Adds 1 stack, will just basically refreshes his the 3 stacks. And that means if you keep sniping or overload shotting whilst your series of shots is on cooldown, you'll keep on doing a bit more damage. You know, so if you use calculated pursuits, 3 set of 4 overload shots together with some snipes, if you're the rotational sort of person, you know, by the time you've got series of shots, you've still got that set of 3 stacks going. So it's useful to have. Almost there, almost to the lovely plasma probe. Anyway, Imperial autoloader, 3 points in that. Got to get it. Our main burst is explosive probe and series of shots, so this produces their energy cost and the cooldown. Good stuff. Got to get it. Next one is scatter bombs. 2 in there, please. It reduces the energy cost of fragmentation grenade by 4. So it costs 20 at the moment. This will reduce it to 16, but it's just helpful with the extra damage and the extra cooldown you already get on fragmentation grenades. This makes it an even more of a good skill to use, even at level 55 PvP. The other benefit of having this is at level 51, when you get this lovely skill down here, Covered Escape, it will enable you to do a wall bang. I don't happen to like those, but I hope they change it. But that's the skill that allows you to do that. Which brings us to the finale, Plasma Probe. Like, I can't say enough about this skill. It is fantastic. Whatever you do, don't come all this way into engineering and not get it. You've got to try it. It's one of the only reasons why you should go down engineering. It's just simply awesome. It is, in one respect, much more of a utility than a damage dealing skill. Depending on your point of view, the damage it does is immaterial to the utility it provides. And this is why, personally, I don't want to see that many changes to Plasma Probe. Because if you're on a single target, if you drop Interrogation Probe first, and then drop a Plasma Probe on them, that will give them a 2-second stun. Because you can see the range of Plasma Probe is 35 meters. That means engineering has 2 skills which are a ranged stun. The Interrogation Plasma Probe and Flashbang. That alone is great. Effects of Plasma Probe, as you can see in the tooltip, it slows them down by 50% whilst they remain in the target area. which brings us on to the second way of crowd control. If you've got a friend or a guildmate or a team member who is being attacked by, say, a guardian or a sentinel or a paratech or whoever, operative, pesky little things. If you drop that on them, they'll be slowed down, which just helps your teammate, guildmate, whatever, to evade them for a bit longer. So that's awesome. Another thing I'll say about the interrogation probe, plasma probe part, stun part of the skill, is that is in addition to the debilitate, cover pulse, leg shot, and flashbang. If you take a heavy shot in the marksman tree, which gives it a knockback on ambush, that's a huge amount of CCs, and if you use those carefully, it's awesome. There's so much more this class can do, and it's not just damage. But the other part of the other utility which is useful is you can drop it in, say, on a door in Void Star, and the only way they're going to plant a bomb at that door is by killing you. So, it does come with a bit of a risk. You drop that, the better players, they'll come for you. So that's when you need to use your covered escape or, debilitate, leg shot, these skills, you can do the same thing in the Vibe Coast in the bunkers. You drop that in the bunker. If they're careful and they stand right in the corners, they can still cap it, but for the most part, it stops people from capping in the bunkers. Civil War does the same thing. It's highly useful in Hypergate as well. So if you use it in that sense, it is going to damage people. So it's fantastic. So there we have it. In terms of engineering, leveling up, by the time you've got Plasma Probe, you'll be level 45, which means, assuming you're a subscriber, of course, you'll have 10 points left to spend on. So, what do? You can put 2 in energy overrides. Personally, I think it's just personal preference. You may want to swap these 2 around, perhaps. It's up to you. As I said, I can never truly decide myself. It's just depending on how I feel at the time. You can choose Vitality Serum. Again, I've put those 2 points in here. You got 10 points. The only thing I would say, choose Steady Shots in Marksmanry, because it boosts our series of shots, which of course is part of our main burst. It increases the damage by 6%. It's worth getting. If you want a bit more crit, you can go to Lethality and choose Lethality. You can see it boosts our crit chance by 3. If you find yourself using Shiv, you can use Hit and Run. It means it boosts just your movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds when you use Shiv. If you use Shiv a lot, then you may want to consider it, Personally, I choose Ballistic Dampeners. Run there is just a filler. I mentioned before, heavy shots. I can't play without it. It's part of, I've used it for so long. It just didn't seem right if I don't have it. I find that just helps to boost ambush damage a bit, and cover screen. It's a good skill. I like it. It's helped out a few times. So, yeah, there we go. All this, of course, is just my own personal opinion, but specifically regarding the engineering tree, if you follow the particular route I take, it should be the best for leveling. Once you've got your 45 in there, then you can play around with the spec. You know, you've got 10 more levels until you're 55. Play around, change it, try slightly different builds regarding these I've mentioned, and see how it goes. So, yeah, I hope this helps a couple of people. If not, then hey, it's only a bit of fun. Enjoy your sniping, dudes. Have fun.